Indianapolis Colts are ready to collide with the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 9. Can Shane Steichen move to 3-0 against Mike Tomlin? Who will win out the quarterback duel between Daniel Jones and Aaron Rodgers? And how are you, the fans, feeling about this highly important AFC clash? Well, let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast, as always presented by Indianapolis Colts on SI.com. I'm Drake Wally, co-deputy editor for the site, co-host of the show, joined by Noah Gebert, analyst for our site, and co-host of the show. Noah, this is not the Tennessee Titans. This is not the Miami Dolphins. This is not the Las Vegas Raiders they're about to play. This is a team that has struggled. The Steelers have got a weird vibe going on this season, but highly talented team. They've got a future Hall of Fame coach that still coaches them and has been for almost almost 2 decades. So it's going to be a big one, man. How's your week been? We're here on the eve of Halloween, and this is a huge matchup, man.
Yeah, my fiance made me a Halloween-themed beverage that I'll be sipping on tonight. So that's
okay.
Oh yeah, she's in the spirit already. I've got the jester mask behind me on the wall, so yeah, we're geared up for Halloween over here. But yeah, in terms of the game that's coming up on Sunday, it's kind of a battle of a team that's riding a huge high with the Indianapolis Colts versus a team that's, like you mentioned, has a weird vibe going on. Dropped 2 of their last 2 games. The defense is looking questionable. Mike Tomlin's having to answer questions about whether he's going to take over play calling duties on the defensive side of the ball. So yeah, it's just one against the other. Like, it's 2 different vibes that are going on with 2 different teams. And I know Colts fans in the past have definitely had their run-ins with some Pittsburgh teams that have caused some heartbreak. But as far as Shane Steichen's concerned, he's really had no issue with the Mike Tomlin-led Steelers. So yeah, just it's always despite the 7-1 record that the Colts have, despite the games that they've been winning, despite the way that they've been winning, it's natural for us. I feel like even before the show, you mentioned it's easy to feel a little bit nervous about pretty much every game because you never know. It's the NFL. You're not going to win every one. But I guess when we get down to the final score predictions, we'll get to what we really think about that. But yeah, just taking the game seriously, just because they do pose a threat, even though the defense, has been struggling of late.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to look back. I mean, this is a team that when the Colts beat them the first time, they had Justin Fields. Okay, and Justin Fields played a great game in that one. And then, or maybe that was last year. I can't remember because one season they had Mason Rudolph, I believe. Mm-hmm. So it's like this is not, you're not dealing with Mason Rudolph. You're not dealing with Justin Fields. One is a pure unadulterated backup. The other is an athletic freak that is not very good at throwing the football. This is one of the greatest quarterbacks, one of the greatest throwers of the football. Insane arm talent in Aaron Rodgers, first ballot Hall of Famer. This is going to be a tough one, but we'll go ahead and jump in as people start to kind of pile in here. We'll go ahead and jump into this Colts and Titans recap. This one's a real easy one. I mean, you talk about we have to talk about it over and over. And I think that this conversation is done now for the rest of the season because the Colts don't really have an easy game to finish here. They've had a nice stretch. We'll just go back through it. Of course, the Miami Dolphins, not a very good team. Tennessee, the first time. Las Vegas, Arizona, they're kind of up and down. And then Tennessee again. Of course, the Chargers was a huge victory. But this was just an absolute domination. I think that the Colts can use this as momentum. 38-14 was the final score. Just in short, and we can kind of break down some things a little bit, but tell me about what did this victory, not what did you think of it, but what did you take away from this victory about the Colts? Like, what do you think about Indianapolis after this? Or are you just pretty much the same, as you have been the rest of the games? Yeah. This offense is humming and the defense is complimentary.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how the amount of times we've had the same conversation. We mentioned that on Monday. It just seems like it keeps coming. You keep having the same thoughts about, wow, Jonathan Taylor is amazing. Wow, Daniel Jones is playing way better than we thought. Wow, there's so many weapons on the offense. Offensive line is playing great. And you mentioned, defense. I mean, definitely a little questionable here and there. Like, you've given up a ton of yards, but not given up a ton of points. You're coming up with some opportunistic plays, playing a pretty complimentary defense to the outstanding offense that you're playing. So it's not like there's anything new that came up in this Titans game that we hadn't seen before from this Colts team, but every time you see them go out and prove it again and again, you believe it a little bit more. And it's good to see them taking advantage of the opportunities they have in front of them, despite the opponents that you're playing. You talked about what some might have that conversation about what was a weak schedule this first half of the season. Like you mentioned, yeah, you're not going to have that this second half. Pretty much every game that you're playing this second half of the season is somebody who, if the season ended today, is in the playoffs or a game out. You're talking about contenders pretty much the whole way for people who are going to be pushing for the postseason. So, yeah, I don't think I learned anything different. Keep doing what you're doing. Trust everything. Like, keep everybody healthy, because I think the health of this team is really what stands out the most to me in terms of the offensive line playing all together every game except that one game that Matt Consalva's missed. And that's the game you lost. That's the one game you lost this season, is the one game where you had a starting offensive lineman out. Josh Downs missed a game. Alec Pierce missed 2. But I mean, Daniel Jones been in there. Jonathan Taylor hasn't missed a practice all season. Tyler Warren's been really healthy. So, I mean, you've got a really healthy offense that's humming. It's just on the defensive side of the ball. You've got some injury questions there that you're trying to fight through, but the offense is helping you do that right now.
Yeah. And, just to kind of give, first we'll get to Truett Trussler Super Sticker. Thank you so much, Truett. You are the man. Has been a part of this show ever since it started, all the way back in the fall of 2022, when the legendary Colts, not future Ring of Honor member Frank Reich, was canned from the confines of West 56th Street. So, but yeah, it's definitely a game where I look back on it and it's wildly impressive, honestly, just how much they kept the Titans down. And there were times where where Mike McCoy, I think our own Zach Hicks wrote about it, where he could have gone for it on 4th down, right? And he played it safe, and so did Brian Callahan. And Brian Callahan's entire tenure, when you look back on what he was able to do with the Tennessee Titans, what he was able to do is just put together some absolutely god-awful football. For some good talent, guys like Pollard, guys like Ridley, guys like Simmons, but Mike McCoy was conservative in areas, and Shane Steichen pushed the pedal down when he had the opportunity. And obviously it's going to be a little different when you're facing tougher competition, because you're willing to take chances against competition that, I mean, dear God, they're 1-7, and they all, by all accounts, Tennessee could be winless and could be the worst team in football. But when you're looking at this box score, you're very, very impressed. Cam Ward, he got sacked 4 times. He was barely over 250 yards, but when you take away the sack yardage, he had 228. Of course, one area that did stand out to me, and some of this did happen later in the game, but the Colts' run defense, it's not like it's atrocious, but I mean, you did have Tyjae Spears have 59 yards on 9 carries. Overall, they averaged 4.5. They had 113 rushing yards. So the defense is still that it's honestly like kind of a murky area, because the run defense isn't great, but they're not allowing a lot of points. They're coming up with turnovers. But then on the offensive side, Noah, I mean, dear God, it just seems like if there's one guy that in this game that stood out to me, and it's cliche as hell, but he won AFC. I think he was the AFC Offensive Player of the Month. He won the FedEx Ground Player of the Week a second straight week. It's Jonathan Taylor, and in this game specifically, you only touched the ball 12 times out of the backfield, and you turn that into 153 yards. Even when you take away that 80-yard touchdown, he still had 11 carries for 73 rushing yards. What do you make of Jonathan Taylor in this game? I think that if anybody needed to see one game, if you were to use one game to describe to somebody what Jonathan Taylor's entire 2025 has looked like, I think this right here is that game.
Yeah, it's this game, and it's multiple times. Like, you talk about the 80-yard run, obviously that's super impressive. But I think both touchdowns that he had outside of that 80-yard run were just as impressive, just wasn't as long in terms of yardage.
Yeah.
That first one, he's doing the exact same thing when he's running to the right on that first touchdown from about 18 yards out, where he's trying to beat the defender to the edge, and he runs vertically a little bit to stack them and change their angle and gets outside of them. He does the exact same thing going to the left side on the 80-yard touchdown, causing that missed tackle by Xavier Woods, and then the missed tackle by Amani Hooker right after that in the same vein. And then just the contact balance that he showed on that Daniel Jones touchdown pass that he had, that touch pass to Jonathan Taylor when he came in motion. Just breaking tackles, contact balance, going into the end zone, staying up even after the whistle was blown. People are still hanging all over him. I mean, he's playing like a monster, and honestly, that's despite the strong year that he's having. Like, that's the part that kind of worries me a little bit about the Colts offense, is because just the health of running backs is so hard to maintain. And he hasn't missed a practice this year. He's been fully healthy, and you hope that keeps up. I don't see any reason why it can't, especially if you only have to go out there and touch the ball 12, 14 times like he did last game to have the impact he did. But yeah, the more that the season goes on, the more I want to see him, despite the way that he's playing, maybe spared a little bit to make sure he can get through the season without as many bumps and bruises as he might have if he's carrying the ball 20 times a game, because he's not the only reason that your offense is playing well. Obviously, Daniel Jones is playing well, and you have a myriad of different weapons at your disposal in the passing game. But Jonathan Taylor is playing lights out, and he's the biggest threat on this offense. I would hate to see that get cut short or you miss that for a couple games. I want to see him fully healthy throughout the whole year, because I think that's really the only thing keeping him away from. You mentioned AFC Offensive Player of the Month is the award that he won. That's going to be the smallest award he wins all year because with the way he's playing.
Yeah, and something that, does need to be mentioned is that there have been people that have connected this season to his 2021 season, and we need to just very briefly dive into why it's just so much different. He's actually not even on pace to beat his rushing yards, close, but not beat his rushing yards from 2021. Here's the simple difference. And, I want you to elaborate on how you feel. Jonathan Taylor that season, okay, the Colts did have Jack Doyle at tight end, but I mean, he was used so often as almost a sixth offensive lineman. And then you have Michael Pittman, and then it's just like a steep drop off. You did have T.Y. Hilton, but he was in the twilight of his career. But it's really all about that they had a defense that could get the ball back. Okay, they were you're talking about Shaq Leonard. You're talking about DeForest Buckner was killing everybody. Grover Stewart was still on that defense. The cornerbacks were different, but at the end of the day, it was the quarterback play, and it was the offensive play calling. Okay, I'll never forget, Noah, that Patriots game. Carson Wentz had like 5 pass completions. Okay, the one where Jonathan Taylor had that gorgeous run where he ices the game. They had to run Taylor into a brick wall constantly. I can't believe he stayed healthy that season. And now you've got the reason it's so much different and why it's so much deadlier. First off, he's scoring way more touchdowns. He's way more of a pass catching threat. He's actually blocking out of the backfield. He's on the field all the time, and he's more than just a handed off guy. Now you've got Daniel Jones out there wheeling and dealing. Now you've got Tyler Warren as a tight end who is, Jack Doyle was the last great Colts tight end. Mm-hmm. This is the next one right here. And you don't just have Pittman. Dear God, you've got Downs, you've got Pierce, you've got, just so many ways to attack offenses. I would say, Noah, that 2021 was impressive, but we were talking about MVP at that point. They were kind of fluctuating as far as their record. Now they're 7-1. They're the number one team in the NFL. A large portion of that is because of Jonathan Taylor. So tell me what you think, when you see his season this year and that all-pro season, that magical year in 2021, what's the difference and how is he just so much more impressive this year?
Yeah, there's a couple, and I think you hit on them pretty much on the head, but I'll elaborate on a few of them. The one, like you mentioned, just him staying on the field way more than he was in 2021. Yeah. And that's not even like he was getting way more carries in 2021, but in this year, you trust him to be on the field all 3 downs because he's stepped up as a pass blocker in passing situations. He's stepped up as a pass catcher. He's just an all-around running back, whereas he was maybe more of a pure runner in that 2021 season. And then in 2021, it was stacked boxes. That was the offense, was Jonathan Taylor, which makes it incredible in its own right, that he was running into these stacked boxes with so many carries and producing the way he was producing. He's not going to get that volume of touches this season that he was getting in 2021, which I think definitely boosted those numbers up. But yeah, 2021 was crazy because it's, Jonathan Taylor's the threat on offense. That's what you have to stop. You load the box, and he still had the season that he went out and had, which makes it all the more impressive. But then you come out this year, he's even ripping plays off at a more explosive rate than he was before. I think part of that is the offensive line play is great, like it was the same year that Jonathan Taylor had his breakout year. It's the offensive line's playing great, but also you've got that complementary passing game now, which is not allowing defenses to stack the box as much. This whole offseason, we were talking about bringing in guys to kind of share that workload with Jonathan Taylor to keep him healthy. It was just Tyler Goodson, Trey Sermon last year. You're like, we need more. DJ Giddens comes in, Khalil Herbert you signed. These guys aren't working out. You bring in Amir Abdullah. It turns out you didn't necessarily need a complimentary second back. You needed the pass game to be the complimentary piece to Jonathan Taylor. That's kind of what it is. You're not relying on him as much, not running him into these brick walls because the pass game has opened up. So yeah, we didn't need Khalil Herbert. You don't need DJ Giddens. You needed Daniel Jones to really make things a little bit easier on Jonathan Taylor, and it's working out that way for sure.
Yeah, and we'll get to a couple comments here. So Paul Wilson, first off, man, just because the gun show is here, I mean, you never know what'll happen. But I appreciate it. Every time I wear the tank top, you guys make me feel so good about myself. So Paul Wilson says O-line is the reason all of them is playing well, in my opinion. Jim Bob Cooter also needs his flowers. I love that you brought up JBC because we don't talk about him on the show. Nobody really talks about him. I will say the only thing that I know about Jim Bob is if you ask him a 5-word question, this man will, I mean, dear God, the transcripts they're painful because they're like this long when he answers a question, and he'll talk all day and give you nothing. Just an absolutely crazy interviewer or like interviewee. But outside of that, nobody really knows about this guy because Shane Steichen takes so much of the attention. But I mean, Noah, JBC, honestly, he's a big part of this offensive game plan. Yeah. And there's a reason. I mean, Shane Steichen handpicked him, actually. And so this is the kind of performance where if this keeps up and the Colts finish with a deadly offense, let's just hypothetically say they finish 13-4, 14-3, and they're just killing opponents the rest of the year, or, they're going toe-to-toe with Mahomes, toe-to-toe with, the Seattle Seahawks, and they're embarrassing teams like the 49ers. I mean, JBC, man, he's been on the cusp of a head coaching opportunity before, so, I mean, he might have that ahead, but I think what Paul says here about the O-line and JBC, I think that those are both weirdly unsung heroes when you're talking about Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I think especially Jim Bob Cooter. People aren't really
there's
not a lot of discussion about him. I was even the last episode we were talking about kind of, do we see this as a one-year wonder kind of thing, or is this something sustainable? And I thought about bringing up the point that, you have all your coaches in place and none of them are probably leaving. And then I was like thinking better of that. I'm like, if they're having the season that they're having now and this continues throughout the whole season, it'd be weird if Jim Bob Cooter wasn't getting some serious head coaching looks. So maybe you don't have this whole staff locked up for as long as maybe you thought. I'm not sure exactly what the pulse is on JBC throughout the league right now in terms of head coaching potential, and then so few opportunities come up every year. But this is an offense that's producing at a historic rate with a guy who previously was thought of to be a draft bust in Daniel Jones operating at quarterback. They're doing things completely unexpected of this unit. And obviously Jim Bob Cooter is going to have a large part to play. I think Shane Steichen being the head coach and being that offensive play caller kind of slows down that hype train a little bit for JBC a little bit, but you're talking about a guy in Shane Steichen who came from a system where he wasn't the offensive play caller there with Nick Sirianni calling the plays on the offensive side of the ball. So it's not necessarily locked in that you have him. So yeah, enjoy it while this whole staff's in place. I know we were definitely talking about Alex Tanney being an addition, and Cam Turner maybe isn't the right guy at quarterback coach because of Anthony Richardson's lack of success. And just complete narrative on all of these guys on the coaching staff has done a complete 180 since the beginning of the season. From the top down, it starts with Shane Steichen, obviously, or starts with, I guess, Chris Ballard, obviously, and then filters all the way down to these assistant coaches, this passing game coordinator, all of these guys. So, yeah, this is a staff that's performing just as well as these players are, if not better.
Yeah, and one more thing is there was an incredible back when Jake Arthur, before he joined Roundtable, when Jake Arthur, the legend himself, was with Colts on SI. He interviewed Cam Turner, the quarterback's coach. Typically, positional coaches don't get interviewed. They just don't. And so when you do interview them and you ask them really hard questions, it's interesting to watch what they do. And Cam Turner never really been an interview guy. When he was with the Cardinals coaching Kyler Murray, no one was like, "Hey, why does Kyler Murray suck?" When he was coaching Cam Newton, they weren't like, "Hey, Cam Turner, why does Cam Newton suck?" They weren't doing that, but when it came down to when they selected Daniel Jones, they grilled him. They brought real answers out of this guy. And something really stood out to me and people were like, "This guy sucks. This entire coaching staff doesn't know what to do with the quarterback." They said, "Why do you think that you guys picked Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson?" And Cam Turner, because he's not used to answering questions, he pretty much gave a very honest answer that was, I think, probably from the soul. He's like something to the tune of, "I've done what I can. We just felt like Daniel was was the better quarterback." And at the time, Noah, I remember writing an article on that. I was thinking, this guy he's just not cut out for this gig. He's not cut out for this gig. Jim Bob Cooter is not cut out to be an OC with Anthony Richardson leading. Shane Steichen's not cut out to coach this kid. They overshot their expectations. And not only were all of us wrong about these three guys, but we were all wrong about that Shane Steichen simply needed a good athletic distributor. You saw what he could do with Minshew. You saw what he could do with Flacco. And they even won some games with Richardson completing like 40% of his passes. So it was always there written between the lines. It's just everybody was so stuck on, that Richardson was failed by the Colts when it could have potentially been the other way around.
Yeah, and I remember that Cam Turner interview, and that was definitely a rough look.
It was bad.
Looking back, maybe he was just telling the truth, right?
I think he was.
Maybe he did. They have legitimately tried everything they can. Who knows? I don't. That's definitely a debate we were having all throughout training camp and all early in the year. Did they fail him, or did he fail the Colts? I mean, it's probably a little bit of both, but it's really hard to complain about anyone on the coaching staff right now when you've got a team playing lights out like they're playing right now.
Yeah, and before we jump into the actual content here for the game, Super Pony with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much. The only way the Colts lose this game is if Mike Tomlin pulls some voodoo magic like he does seemingly every season and wins a game he shouldn't. Mike Tomlin has kept the Steelers head coaching position since 2007. And he's been to 2 Super Bowls. All he does is make the playoffs. All he does, I don't think he's had a losing record, or maybe that was recent. I mean, either way, Noah, it's weird. I don't know how he keeps on. Sometimes these teams are like handicapped almost, and they just hobble into the playoffs in one of the toughest divisions known to man. What are your thoughts on Mike Tomlin? I've really looked forward to all 3 of these matchups. This is, of course, the third one. But Shane Steichen versus Mike Tomlin, that's like gritty defensive football against offensive mastery. So it's always a good matchup.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that the Colts at least aren't used to in recent history, switching the head coach position like they have, not having that stability that they have over there in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin. So that's something I think pretty much every franchise hopes for, is to have a guy that you're super stable in and believe in. And I just kind of think it speaks to the head coach position and how if you have someone solid like that, it just raises the floor of the franchise completely. Like, if the worst you're going to do is 8-9 or 8-8 back then when it was 16 games. So Yeah, I mean it's kind of like it's not. I wouldn't say that it's like the Jeff Fisher thing where he was always 8-8 perennially because Mike Tomlin has shown he can go a little bit above that and really be an outstanding head coach when he's got the players around him. But yeah, I think this is a team that is kind of different from the Colts, where like it's never really been a head coach on the hot seat there with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, and the Colts were kind of facing that with Shane Steichen, and the players kind of elevated that. They're kind of on the opposite end, where Mike Tomlin's always been the guy that has to elevate those players. So it's interesting to see kind of how he's meshing with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who's got an ego that's above anyone else in the NFL, and how he's kind of meshing with that against this gritty defensive coach who's been a stalwart in the league for so long. It's just they're an interesting team, the Steelers are, and every time you've seen the Colts play the Steelers, you never go in there like super confident. You're always a little bit worried about what the Pittsburgh Steelers can do to the Indianapolis Colts, and Mike Tomlin's obviously a huge part of that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, Mike Tomlin should be. I don't care who you are, how much you dislike the guy, dislike the Steelers, hate the Steelers. He is undeniable for respect. He's earned it, and that's all that we need to say. I mean, he's an incredible coach, clearly. He's been with the team for almost 20 years. In fact, the last guy, Noah, that I can remember that's done that, his name was Bill Belichick. So, I mean, it's been a minute since you've seen a guy stay with the team leading them for 2 decades. So, but we're going to go ahead and jump into it here. What are we going to expect from the Colts while they are on offense? So this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is it's almost all right, we'll make this brief. They went in, they got Jalen Ramsey. All right. They have guys like Cam Hayward, guys like Derek Harmon. They've got some real problem makers. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Joey Porter Jr. I mean, the talent is endless on that defense. They are literally last in the NFL in passing yards allowed per game. I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. They get to the quarterback. They sack the quarterback plenty. But dear God, they can't stop anybody from throwing on them. And now they're about to run into a buzzsaw of an offense. Just before we dive into like the intricacy of it, what are your thoughts on, the Colts offense versus the Steelers defense? Because generally Pittsburgh's known for some incredibly gritty defense, and that has just not been the case.
Yeah. And it's really a defense that you take a look at it just on paper and you're like,
oh,
why are they not?
10.
Why are they not
Top
one of the
10.
best defenses in the league? They've got guys at every level of that defense. TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, obviously, even Alex Highsmith really has made a name for himself lately. Patrick Queen at linebacker, Joey Porter, maybe not. He was definitely sought after in the draft, but Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, these names on the defense that you're just thinking all pros at some point in their careers. But yeah, just has not been coming together for him lately here on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, and like you mentioned, number 1 in the NFL in terms of pass yards given up, really gives the Colts an opportunity here to unleash kind of what they've been doing all year and start the game out. I feel like we talk about this every game, how this is the game you got to lean on Jonathan Taylor because he's playing out of his mind, and every week they come out and they're just still throwing the ball because that's what's been opening up their run game on offense is they're leaning on Daniel Jones in this past game, and this is really an opportunity that you can do that even more. Deshaun Elliott, I think, is ruled out, and I think ruled out for quite some time. Deshaun Elliott, the safety over there on the Steelers, who's really been their stalwart on defense also. So yeah, I mean they're running a little bit slim. Patrick Queen has not been playing well at linebacker, especially in pass coverage, which I definitely think has contributed to them giving up a lot of pass yards on defense, a lot similar to Zaire Franklin and Jermaine Pratt and their ability in pass coverage. You'd think Patrick Queen has been better at that in the past, but this year is really struggling in pass coverage, which, I mean, when you're down one of your starting safeties and you've got a linebacker group that's struggling in pass coverage, that screams to me Tyler Warren. Get involved in that game, and the Colts have not been shy about getting him involved in even games where he shouldn't really be the main matchup. Even when they were playing the Chargers and Derwin James was out there, and they've got Diane Henley playing really well, you still targeted Tyler Warren. So now I think this might be the game that you see a Colts receiver finally hit 100 yards, 10 catches. I think maybe that's the Tyler Warren game we're talking about here, which is weird that you're seeing it potentially come from a tight end instead of these receivers who are so talented and Michael Pittman was so close. I think he had 8 for 95 last
Yep.
week. Was so close to hitting that 100-yard mark. I think Tyler Warren's the one to watch here in this one.
Well, and that's going to be that's going to be something to keep an eye on because Jalen Ramsey is just an absolute. You talk about the quintessential big physical cornerback. That's it. That's the blueprint. That's like that's what you would build in your superstar mode in Madden 26 if you have a cornerback, because that is exactly what you're going to create is Jalen Ramsey. And you're looking at the cornerback situation with Slay, with Porter Jr., with Ramsey. And I mean, each Colts receiver is going to match up with one of those guys, Pierce, Downs, and Pittman. But I like what you said about Tyler Warren. Those linebackers for Pittsburgh, man, and you can't look at Tyler Warren like a rookie at all. You just can't. He's too savvy. He's too good at finding the open spots in zone. He's way too good at figuring out how to create separation, body away, use power to get away from man coverage. I mean, he's just a freaking problem. But I will say that there's also so many ways to attack the Steelers defense. One thing they do excel at, or I guess in relation to the way that they defend the pass, is they're very middle of the road against the run. But I mean, tell me what you think about this, Noah. I know Shane Steichen has come off to me as a coach that really goes against what the matchup says should start the game for the Indianapolis offense. He doesn't go out there and set up the pass with the run. He's been setting up the run with the pass. And now you've got a defense that can't stop the pass, but they've got guys that can absolutely sack your quarterback.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they go out there and they start running Taylor down their throat and then open up everything else for the passing attack. Because while they have sucked against stopping the pass, man, again, Ramsey, Porter Jr., and Slay, those are some incredibly talented cornerbacks. In fact, if you looked on paper, I don't know if there's a trio of cornerbacks that are better than the talent that the Steelers have.
Yeah, and they're kind of operating under that. I mean, not necessarily, but they're definitely older there on the defensive back side.
Yes,
Joey Porter being the one exception there. Yeah, but it's just in terms of them flipping it up, I kind of doubt that they do it just because of what they've been doing has been working so well. But I mean, you can't really say that it wouldn't make sense in any scenario to run Jonathan Taylor early and often. In any game, I feel like that would be acceptable. They're not playing. The Steelers defense isn't playing well against the pass, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily how they're going to be all the time. Despite them not playing well against the pass recently, I mean, they're still, I think, top 3 in the league in turnovers. Then a lot of those were created early on in the year. I know they've kind of gone on a dry spell, so they're definitely opportunistic. Maybe if you want to play a little bit of a safer game, which isn't necessarily Shane Steichen style, maybe you do lean a little bit more on the run game early just to give less opportunities for Joey Porter, Darius Slay, or especially Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, very famously guys who are going after the ball and being aggressive and creating turnovers. So, and then if you want to slow down that pass rush, I know TJ Watt hasn't looked like TJ Watt of the past lately, but still I think has that capability to really put a ton of pressure on you any given game. So it's not somebody that you should relax against. I mean, it does make sense, but I still see it as a little bit of a far shot for them to be switching up what they've been doing when they're on a historic pace on the offensive side of the ball right now.
Yeah, and we're going to pause the show, and I'm going to pull an ADHD moment. This is the obligatory addressing of just one of the best people in the chat. So Tom Brady 12, listen here. All right, I'm going to give you a quote, and I want you to guess at who said this. I'm not going to lie. I didn't want to do it, but I can't ignore 7-1. The Colts have arrived, and they're finally the number 1 team in my power rankings. That's your boy, Tom Brady, that said that. So I want you to take that, let it soak in, maybe just read about it on Indianapolis Colts on SI. You're very privy to following Colts news, which is weird. But you know what? We're happy to have you. Thank you so much. So anyway, back to what we're talking about here.
Do you think he's a Patriots fan or a Raiders fan?
He's something. I think
he just followed Tom Brady to Las Vegas.
He's like those LeBron fans. They followed him to LA. They followed him to Miami. They followed him back to Cleveland. The same fans that crapped on him when he left Cleveland for Miami. I mean, it's whatever. Sports are crazy. But I really like what you said, because the thing is, this defense has been out of sorts. And when we look at who they have, honestly, Noah, they should be decimating offenses. Mm-hmm. And I respect what the Steelers did here. They said, we're going all in. We're going all in. We got DK, we got Rodgers, we got Ramsey, we got, all of these pieces, Slay. They really went all in. But when you do that with veterans, sometimes it just doesn't work out. I mean, like the league will catch up to an elite football player as soon as he hits that veteran status overnight. It happens overnight. It's wild. You never see the decline in basketball, in baseball, in NHL, soccer, golf, nothing like the NFL. It is overnight. It's done. And there's no better proof of that than Peyton Manning's last year. So I mean, I don't know what's happening with the Steelers, but they are an incredibly exploitable defense. And as long as the Colts offensive line can handle what the Steelers are throwing at them, I really think Daniel Jones has an opportunity to put up the best game he has all season. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, guys like Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, they have faced off against the Colts in past years, and the same guys that they've got on the offensive line have faced him. Braden Smith has a propensity to stop TJ Watt. All right. Bernard Ryman has done just fine against a guy like Cam Hayward, and a guy like Quentin Nelson can handle anyone in football. So, like, I mean, that's one of the 5 keys I had in my 5 keys to the Colts beating the Steelers piece, is the Colts O-line versus that Steelers defensive line. For the Colts offense, Noah, that's going to be where it's won and lost. If they somehow allow TJ Watt to have the best game of his season, I mean, he's still a guy that, man, he can absolutely screw up your whole offense for the game.
Yeah, so, for sure. And it's the NFL's streaky, right? You can't expect a team that's been struggling on defense for the last 3 or 4 games to still be struggling on defense when they come out and face you, especially if you're in an environment like Pittsburgh, you're playing a home game. If the Steelers are going to get it right, eventually it's probably going to be in their own stadium. So I would, just with the talent that they have on the defensive side of the ball, I'm never going to expect them to play poorly or like they have in the last couple of weeks. I'm expecting them to bring it. Like you mentioned, we talked about Mike Tomlin for a while there. This is a well-coached team that is going to find its footing at some point. They're going to find, it's not going to be a bottom falls out situation. It's never been with the Pittsburgh Steelers while Mike Tomlin's in charge, and especially not with the talent they have on the defensive side of the ball. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the conversation this week surrounding this game has been about how poor the Steelers defense has been, how much success Shane Steichen's had against Mike Tomlin's defenses in the last 3 years, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we should expect going into this game. Now, even with that said, and if the Steelers defense does play well, this is an offense on the Colts side of the ball that's, I mean, we've talked so much about them and how historic of a pace that they're on and how they're going to put up 30, 33 pretty much against anybody that they're playing. I want the Colts to face off against teams that have good defenses, that is their strength, because I feel like regardless of how good your defense is, the Colts offense is operating on all cylinders. It's not going to really be stopped or slowed down unless they slow something down themselves. So yeah, I'm not necessarily worried about the defense, but I'm also not expecting them to come out and lay a goose egg like some people have been talking about in the past few weeks.
Yeah, and there's actually a comment here that I'm going to play devil's advocate with. Okay, so Dalton Browns fanboy. So anybody in the chat, he's actually a Browns fan. So first off, props to Dalton, because that is not a team that is easy to stick with. Myles Garrett just had 5 sacks, and he said, I would trade a win away from my 5-sack game. We'll play devil's advocate here, Dalton. Okay, so obviously Miami falling apart. Denver, there was the leverage call that, by the way, was Dalton Tucker identified a guy pregame who likes to try to block kicks, and he totally baited him into a leverage call. But That was a game that Indianapolis could have easily lost. Of course, then you've got the Titans. Then you've got the Rams. They lost that one, but they should have won. But because of negligence on the field from A.D. Mitchell, they lost. Las Vegas is an absolute dumpster fire, so I'll give you that one. But they still beat them 40-6. Arizona, of course, that was a down to the wire game. Jacoby Brissett carved up the defense. They barely squeaked out. Los Angeles was a very impressive victory against the Chargers, but Justin Herbert got pressured sub 40 times. They had their third string tackle in. Indianapolis took advantage, and then, of course, they got Tennessee. I will give you somewhat, not all 12 of your roses, but I'll give you some of your roses, Dalton. This will be a game where the Steelers are pretty healthy, okay? And tell me what you think, Noah, because, I mean, we got Pittsburgh, we got Atlanta, we got Kansas City, you got, the Houston Texans, awesome defense. Jacksonville has been a problem for the Colts. Seattle is a great team. San Francisco, I don't care if it's a bunch of trash bags out there. Kyle Shanahan coaches them. They can beat you. Jacksonville and Houston, again, like I said, Dalton, I'll give you some flowers on this one. This is where the Colts are really, the rubber meets the road, and this is where they're going to show the NFL that they are legit, or that they took advantage of some good situations here from here on out.
Yeah, and it's possible the record maybe looks a little bit better than maybe it would if they were playing this second half of the season twice, right? Like maybe the record wouldn't be 7-1, maybe it'd be closer to 5-3, whatever.
Sure.
But I mean, the games that they're going out and they're playing, some of these teams that are dumpster fires, like you said, they're boat racing them. They're winning by 20, 30 points. I mean, they're just dropping a ton of points on them. And then even in these games where you're talking about contenders in the Los Angeles Rams, it's very much a game that was down to the wire there. And man, a couple plays here and there, a couple more inches on the goal line where that A.D. Mitchell held onto the ball, that holding call. I mean, there was a lot of plays that could have gone the Colts' way that would have resulted in a win then. The Broncos are playing really well. I mean, whether they won or lost that game, they're right there on that tier, right? Regardless of what the schedule is. So, yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to see throughout the second half of the season. I don't think this even really needs to be a conversation because I think there's been a nice enough mix of games here in this Colts schedule where they've been put up against real opponents and have shown that their offense hasn't slowed down in any of those situations, and they've been playing well. So, yeah, the Chargers game's another one you bring up against someone who's going to be fighting for a playoff spot there in the AFC, and they handled the Chargers with pretty much with relative ease. So, yeah, they're definitely on that tier up there with the Rams, I would say, at this point. So, any argument beyond that, I think, is definitely a little bit of a troll there.
Sure. Well, and Dalton, man, there is absolutely, yeah, you don't even have to say no hard feelings, man. This is a football podcast. Bring your opinions, bring what you want, man. We are more than happy to talk about it. At least you're not talking about Tom Brady in here. I'll take Browns all day over Tom Brady talk. So, but yes, Noah, I before we kind of transition over to the defense here and then get to our X factors and prediction, what wide receiver? Because obviously you talk about Tyler Warren. Jonathan Taylor has been, I mean, Indianapolis Colts on SI, man. I'm about ready to start writing about his backup because I wrote so much about Jonathan Taylor. We don't even need to talk about him. Which one of these three wide receivers do you think has the advantage and will have the biggest game of any one of them? Because Tyler Warren's probably going to eat somewhat.
Yeah, and it's definitely hard to say. I definitely think the Tyler Warren thing is definitely going to come into play. You're going to see a lot of receptions out of him. Jalen Ramsey, I think, is the big X factor there, where you're talking about a guy who is, like this big physical guy that you mentioned, but has played a lot in the nickel. So like he could be that big physical guy that matches up on a guy like Michael Pittman, because Michael Pittman's also this big physical guy, or he can stay in the nickel and kind of lock down Josh Downs and take away that, or at least one of those options that they have on third downs to get those short gains. Which I think leads up when some of the others. So whatever guy that Jalen Ramsey is not on, I think really has an opportunity. Jalen Ramsey, I mean, has been playing well despite the narratives around the Steelers defense right now. I think Jalen Ramsey will pretty much always play well. But the one name that sticks out to me here in this situation is Alec Pierce, and how the Steelers might be a little bit susceptible on the deep ball with Deshaun Elliott missing back there at safety. Joey Porter, ran a 4.68. I think at 40 time coming out of college. So he's not a speed guy that's going to be able to cover deep. They've got I guess Darius Slay would be on him, who, I mean, was fast when he was coming out of college, but is also in his 30s now. So That might be a conversation that you have. Maybe you can take advantage of some of that, take advantage of some of these looks, and get Alec Pierce going on some deep balls. So I would definitely expect to see some shots going for Alec Pierce, and we know when shots go to Alec Pierce, he comes down with them more often than not. So I wouldn't be surprised to see another 55-yard catch like he had last week, or maybe even more, and take one for a touchdown here this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Alec Pierce needs an extension. You're not going to find vertical targets like that very often. And above all else, he's starting to round out his game, which just makes him an absolute dog. I mean, that's going to be somebody you're really going to have issues covering the better he gets. Noah, I'm going to go ahead and pass this one off to you before we do. Dalton Brown's fanboy. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, dude. Paul Wilson says, can we talk about a certain corner who might be on track for the first time all year? I'm going to let Noah talk about who that corner is, but that corner logged his second full practice of the week.
Yeah, second full practice. I'll be honest with you. Not my favorite matchup to bring Jalen Jones back for his first matchup when you've got guys like Calvin Austin, DK Metcalf, guys who can take you deep. You've got Jalen Jones, who long speed has never been his game. Is more of a physical guy who's going to break things up, stay pretty sticky on you. But yeah, if you're talking streaks, thrown to Calvin Austin, DK Metcalf, a guy who's not known for his long speed, coming back from a hamstring injury that's been tweaked more than once this season, worries me a little bit. I don't want him to overstretch himself trying to keep up with some of these guys and tweak that again. So I don't love that. But yeah, just from physical nature, I think, yeah, DK Metcalf on some of these shorter and intermediate routes, if you're playing some zones there with Jalen Jones, I think is a fun matchup to have. And honestly, just the stability of having a guy who's done it before, I think is going to be a very welcome addition on the back end if Jalen Jones does end up making his return from injury here this week, because they've been dealing with some of this revolving door of undrafted free agents, practice squad call-ups outside of Mekhi Blackmon, who is this waiver or pre-waiver wire trade that they made for a conditional late-round pick. Like, it's just not an experienced group, not a super sought-after group in terms of talent throughout the league. So, I mean, it'd be good to have Jalen Jones, who was a 7th-round pick when he was coming out, but hasn't played. It's unfair to Jalen Jones to say he's played better than his draft selection, because I think that's a given. I think he is a solid starting NFL corner. That would be outplaying a 3rd-round draft selection. So I think he's when he's in the lineup, when he's healthy, I feel better about the defense. I want so much for Louis Anarumo to trust him, but I don't know if that's even what the case is. I mean, even when pre-training camp, pre-Justin Wally injury, Justin Wally had him beat out for that starting spot, it seemed like, in terms of all the reps that he was getting. Justin Wally goes down and Jalen Jones kind of takes over de facto. They bring in Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard immediately gets listed as the starter on the lineup as soon as he steps in the building before he has a practice with the Colts over Jalen Jones. So it seemed like Lou Anarumo was hesitant to put Jalen Jones on the field. But maybe just by the attrition that's happened at corner and the people that he's had to put out there at corner, I bet he would be happy to put Jalen Jones out there to keep Cam Mitchell off the field. Not that Cam Mitchell's played poorly, but he's on the practice squad and not your active roster for a reason. Yeah. So, I mean, Jonathan Edwards, I think, is he definitely has a future with this team, and they like him for a reason. He fits that mold of a Lou Anarumo corner. But he was victimized his first time he made that full-time start when Charvarius Ward went down with that pregame injury. He was in position. He was thrown on, but he was giving up a lot of completions. Even though he was right there in coverage, he just wasn't there making the plays on the ball, and I think that lost a little bit of a confidence, and it gained some confidence for every opponent that was going to throw against him. Kind of led to him splitting some time with Cam Mitchell over that practice squad call-up over there at corner. So let's just find some stability at corner. I hope that's Jalen Jones. I hope Lou Anarumo gives him his shot. But again, yeah, this matchup, not necessarily best case scenario if we're talking Jalen Jones in the lineup.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue. By the way, just wanted to thank you so much, Paul, for that super chat. What are we going to expect from while the Colts are on defense? And I'll go ahead just so that we can get it out of the way because all of a sudden the guy's putting some fire questions in here. All right, the Colts are definitely. I really feel like they're going to make a trade, Noah. I really do. You've got till November 4th, which, by the way, is next week, next Tuesday.
Yeah.
They really need. I think they need edge rushers more than they need cornerback. But I love this. I love this possibility. What would you trade the Browns for Denzel Ward? Because Denzel Ward's having kind of a rough season, not playing up to what he usually does. But I think that with a guy like Louis Anarumo, I mean, a four-time Pro Bowler sounds pretty awesome. I mean, he's also come up with countless plays. Last season, led the NFL in passes broken up. What would you give for Denzel Ward? Because I've always thought very high of Denzel Ward.
Yeah, I think really highly of Denzel Ward. I've definitely seen not just Dalton here in the chat. Paul Wilson even's talking about trade talk. There's been some other people in the comments that want trade talk, so we'll entertain some trade talk here.
We can do it. We can do it. Let's do it.
If you're asking me, it's edge for sure that I think the Colts should go after, not corner. Denzel Ward's an interesting one because obviously, I mean, if you're talking impact defensive players, you're talking Denzel Ward. That's immediate. That's without question. That would be your starter outside with Charvarius Ward being the other one.
Think about that duo.
Yeah, but we just spent all that time, and Paul paid us $5 to talk about Jalen Jones. Like, we don't need Denzel Ward immediately after that, right? So, but no, Denzel Ward, great, but also you're in a position where what would you have to give up for Denzel Ward? It would have to be pretty significant with the player that he is. He's 28 years old. Yeah. He's got a huge contract right now too, which runs through 2027. I think he's still got 2 more years on that, about $30 million a year. The next 2 years, you've got a lot to think about in terms of finances for your team right now because you're going to pay Daniel Jones at the end of the season. So that's $40 million that you don't have allocated right now that would immediately be going to your quarterback. You wouldn't have to spend on other positions. And you've got the question of Nick Cross coming up under contract.
Alec Pierce.
So yeah, Alec Pierce coming up under contract. Kwity Paye's probably not coming back. Braden Smith, what do you do with him? There's a lot of questions there that you have to answer, but none of them can be answered until you get that Daniel Jones contract under control and in your power. So, I mean, is this a trade that you're trying to make because you're trying to go all chips in for this season and go after the Super Bowl after the start you had, or are you having an eye on the future as well? Because I think a trade for Denzel Ward, on the surface, it sounds like, yeah, great. This is obviously we're thinking about the future if we're trading for a 28-year-old Pro Bowl level corner. But really, I don't know where that puts you in terms of finances. I tend to be more on the side of if you're going to make a trade that I just go for this year trade. It's going to be super rare to find a trade that's something that lines up perfectly financially for you in the years to come.
Yes.
With these people on the open market. So maybe you're just looking at somebody who's on the last year of on their deal, last year of a rookie deal or something like that. You can give up maybe a 4th, 5th round pick to really try to push your defense over the edge. But I don't think this is the time that the Colts should be looking to add these huge names. I mean, Max Crosby, Denzel Ward, some of these names that might be available on the trade market. Those are obviously the most fun, the most exciting. They might give you the best chance to go on a Super Bowl run this year, but I think that puts you in a really, really awkward situation the years after that.
Yeah, and, just to kind of move on here before we do, though, Dalton, the Colts are in a really weird spot because, Josh Downs, they're going to need to evaluate what they do with him. Braden Smith, I don't expect him to return. So then you've got questions about what are we going to do with Alec Pierce? What are we going to do with Nick Cross? What are we going to do with Kwity Paye? Number one, though, like Noah said, this is a quarterback-driven league. And for the first time since 2019, the Colts look like they actually have a guy who can play quarterback. Yeah. So you bet your ass they're going to pay that. They're going to pay Daniel Jones because they finally have a guy who can actually play under center. We'll see, but I think that I will leave you with this, Dalton. When it comes to Myles Garrett and when it comes to Denzel Ward, who knows? But I share your sentiment. I do think that their talent, unfortunately, is stuck in Cleveland, and the fans of Cleveland, man, they've suffered for a long time. So, but we'll go ahead and just jump right into what are we going to expect on defense. Quick pressure. You got to get quick pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He has only been sacked. He's immobile as hell, right? The guy can he's like Joe Burrow. He can make a play happen with his feet when it's open, when he's instinctive about it. And then he's like deceivingly quick. But overall, this guy's not going to outrun people. But Aaron Rodgers, Noah, might be the greatest I've physically seen at getting the ball out fast. Okay, he gets that ball out quick as hell. He's barely been pressured. He's barely been sacked. If you don't get quick pressure on Aaron Rodgers in this game, given your woes with your cornerbacks, even if Jalen Jones returns, DK Metcalf is an explode. He's a piece of dynamite this year. He's played fantastic for the Steelers. I mean, there's a big possibility that Rodgers just hits them death by 1,000 cuts. But an underrated thing about the Steelers, 3 guys stand out to me: Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington, one of which is 6'8" and 300 freaking pounds in the broadcast teams watching Pittsburgh games. I've literally heard them talk about him maybe transitioning to offensive tackle. Okay. The linebackers and the safeties, especially those linebackers, I put in my piece, one matchup to watch is those 3 tight ends against guys like Zaire Franklin and Jermaine Pratt.
Yeah.
I am terrified of those 3 tight ends because if Rodgers starts hitting those tight ends short, I mean, Pat Freiermuth is Jack Doyle's Steelers edition. Okay, so what are your thoughts on that? I think that if I'm Aaron Rodgers and I'm Mike Tomlin and I'm this offense, I'm saying, look, man, let's find those 3 tight ends and let's make Indianapolis cover them. And what does that do? That's going to open up a whole lot for DK Metcalf downfield.
Yeah, it's absolutely that. I think, honestly, this Steelers offense is kind of built to attack what this Colts defense is and what this Colts defense is susceptible to giving up. And that's not just the 3 tight ends that you mentioned, which I think are going to be huge in Freiermuth, especially Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith. You mentioned Darnell Washington, a little bit more of a blocker, but obviously they love to run a lot of personnel with 2 and 3 tight ends on the field. And that makes you, as a defensive play caller, play 2 or 3 linebackers on the field. And that's not something Lou Anarumo loves doing. Like, he loves playing as many DBs as possible. I doubt you're going to see a lot of 3 linebackers on the field.
Kill those DBs.
Yeah, and these linebackers are, I mean, we talked about Patrick Queen on the Steelers defense struggling with pass coverage, even more so. It's Jermaine Pratt and Zaire Franklin having those same issues on the defensive side of the ball. You just saw Aronde Gadsden for the Chargers go off for about 170 yards as a late round rookie tight end against this defense. So when you get guys like Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, both have had a ton of success in this league, and a guy who gets the ball out quick and distributes it pretty well in Aaron Rodgers, it's worrisome. And then you also have to worry about Kenneth Gainwell, Jalen Warren, both threats out of the backfield as receivers, who are also going to stress those linebackers as matchups. So I think Zaire Franklin, Jermaine Pratt especially have a lot of work. They're probably going to be on the field. Zaire probably going to be on the field 100% of the snaps. Jermaine Pratt probably going to be on the field 80% of the snaps, and maybe you rotate in. I know Austin Ajaki's been getting some time over there at linebacker, so you just got to find somebody. I mean, I don't know that they have anybody on the roster right now currently that can keep up with any of these tight ends at the linebacker spot, and that worries me. And then on top of that, you've got the threat of the deep pass. And Aaron Rodgers historically been very, very good with the deep ball. I know the Jets year obviously looked bad. Steelers year, he looks a lot better than he did. So don't say it's old, washed up Aaron Rodgers. It's not the same Aaron Rodgers that it's been, but he's not Jets Aaron Rodgers. He's on a different level than that, but he's still very hesitant, I think, to go deep. But I think the one thing that could tempt you to go deep is if you have Cam Mitchell, Mekhi Blackman, Jonathan Edwards matched up on DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, stretching you deep like that. There's mismatches for this Colts defense at most levels. So it's going to be an interesting, but at the same rate, like, I feel okay about this matchup because I feel confident that the Colts offense is going to make this a shootout, right? And the run game hasn't been incredible for the Steelers. The Steelers offensive line is playing pretty well, but you're missing probably Suamalo for this game at guard. So we'll see what that ends up looking like when those final injury reports come out, and we'll see what all these matchups look like. But man, just the tight ends really being able to take care of these or take advantage of these linebackers in the pass coverage, and then the threat of the deep pass, I think, has me a little bit worried for sure that the Steelers are at least going to make this Colts offense that's been putting up 33, maybe put up a little bit more than that to outpace them here.
Yeah, and this defense for Indianapolis, I'll just be honest, man. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I am going to pepper the hell out of 44 and 53 from Indianapolis, Pratt and Zaire, with as many passes as I can. I mean, I am going to do everything I can to find those two, and I don't care if it's a tight end, a wide receiver, your fourth string wideout that's playing a 4 wide receiver look on a play. I'm going after those linebackers, okay? They have been torched all season. And Zaire Franklin, no offense to him, but even by PFF grades, you don't even have to look at PFF. He is one of the worst coverage linebackers in the NFL starting. He just is. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll make this one nice and brief. I'll go ahead and pick 2. You pick 2. For offense, it is absolutely Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has got a golden opportunity here to shoot out and just absolutely ball out and use all of those sexy weapons he's got against the Steelers defense that has no idea this year how to stop the pass. Defensively, it is the interior pass rush for me. I want to see guys like DeForest Buckner, not even Grover Stewart. I want to see guys like Neville Gallimore, guys like Adetomo Adebawore. They need to get quick pressure, and I mean fast. You got to get in Aaron Rodgers' face as quickly as possible, because as soon as he takes that snap, he's got the arm talent to freaking half throw it, and it's a zip to a slant. I mean, you got to get in his face fast. No better way to pressure an immobile quarterback than right through the A-gaps. What do you think, Noah?
Yeah, those are both good. Daniel Jones especially, go being an X factor on this offense, trying to take advantage of a poor pass defense so far this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers to keep the offense on track like it's been, and pass to score and run to win has always been the mantra this season. Maybe you don't even have to turn to the run to win. Maybe the pass is going to be open enough for you. Daniel Jones is going to be playing well enough. Maybe just the fourth quarter might be a Jonathan Taylor, Amir Abdullah show, just because you got up and we're comfortable there with your pass game. But yeah, I think he really has some opportunities to play well this week. Then you mentioned the interior defensive line, and that was good. Yeah, with the possible Isaac Suomalo missing the game on the interior offensive line for the Steelers makes it even bigger. Grover Stewart has shown up on the injury report, didn't practice the last 2 days. My bet says he's probably going to play just because he does. He just usually does. He doesn't miss a ton of games. So that if he doesn't, I do think you mentioned good that you brought up Neville Gallimore, Adetomo Adebawore, guys who have come on of late and have been asked to play a little bit of a bigger role and have had more of an impact while doing that, and kind of providing that pass rush while the edge rushers haven't really been providing that. So I think those are both good call outs. I'm going to go on offensive side for me. It's got to be Tyler Warren, right? I want to say Alec Pierce because, like we mentioned with that, because I want them to take advantage of the deep ball. But Tyler Warren, I think, is going to be your down in, down out. Let's target this guy and really get your offense going. I want to see a 100-yard game. It'd be even more fun if it was from the rookie tight end. So let's see a 100-yard game from Tyler Warren as the X factor on offense, and then defense. Yeah, I guess it's Cam Bynum or Nick Cross, whichever one of the safeties you want to have playing deep. Right, whoever you want to be your last line of defense. I mentioned obviously yes. So I guess maybe both of them. Obviously yes. These linebackers are going to be susceptible to these tight ends. Maybe use Nick Cross a little bit to help out with that and try to cover Pat Freiermuth, try to cover Jonnu Smith a little bit better. But I think what's even bigger is maybe keeping Cam Bynum back there as your center fielder, just in case DK Metcalf gets loose on one of these inexperienced corners, just in case Calvin Austin takes it up the seam and gets lost. Because, you have these inexperienced corners. So the last line of the defense is going to be Cam Bynum, and I think that's going to be your X factor to not necessarily stop these explosive plays, because I think the Steelers are going to have some explosive plays, but at least limit them to maybe a 40-yard gain instead of a 60-yard touchdown. Let's do that.
I love it. All right, we're going to get into final score predictions here. I'm just going to rip off my blurb from our SI score predictions, and then we'll get Noah's. The Indianapolis Colts are averaging 33.8 points per game, which is the best in the NFL. As for the Steelers, they're struggling mightily against the pass, ranking dead last in the NFL in pass yards allowed per game with 273.3. Yes, the Colts have Jonathan Taylor, but this matchup screams Daniel Jones versus Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers can't stop QBs from carving up their secondary, and Indy's quarterbacks are riddled with injury. Expect this to be close, but Indy has more ways to attack the Steelers defensively, resulting in a narrow victory of 30-27 on the road. What do you think, Noah?
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit higher on the score, I think, just because, worried about the Steelers. Not that the Steelers offense has been necessarily playing that well.
Start Rodgers if you have him in fantasy.
The way that the matchups look to me on paper, which isn't always what ends up happening, it's just a little bit worrisome. So I think the Steelers are going to put up points, but I have no doubt that the Colts offense is not going to have trouble putting up points either. So I'm going to guess a 35-31 win, Colts over the Steelers.
All right, and also, little factoid before we close out here. Indianapolis, ladies and gentlemen, has not won in Pittsburgh since 2008. So they've already beaten the curse of the week one game. They have an opportunity to beat Jacksonville and end that streak, and they have an opportunity of a lifetime to beat Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium, formerly Heinz Field. But that's our show, guys. Thank you so much for all of the support. Truett, Super Pony, Paul, you guys are legends. And we had just so much fun in the chat. You know what? Hey, Dalton, dude, come back. Come back. Tom Brady 12. You do what you want. I'm not going to really emphasize anything. You do what you want, Tom Brady 12. But anyway, guys, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. Follow Indianapolis Colts on SI. And, of course, on X, we are at Colts_SI. Subscribe to Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube and click the bell to turn on all the notifications. And if you want to listen, Noah's got us hooked up on Apple, on Spotify, everywhere else you listen to podcasts, and so much more. Guys, we will be right back here on Monday evening. We're going to see what happens. Expect this to be a very fun game. Expect it to be more of Aaron Rodgers versus Daniel Jones than Jonathan Taylor versus the Steelers defense. Anything can happen, but it's going to be awesome. And whoever wins this, I mean, this is a game to establish a foothold in the AFC. So if the Colts can win, they're the outright front runner. If the Steelers can win, they regain momentum that they have lost in some pretty brutal defeats. So, guys, until then, enjoy your Thursday. Happy freaking Halloween. Don't listen to your dentist. Eat all the candy you want. And if your child is too young to eat their candy like mine, well, then they're just there to get candy for you. There we go. There we go. Noah's embracing the spirit of Halloween. I'm showing you guys my ugly mustache. We are absolutely terrifying. Everyone enjoy your day. Enjoy your Halloween, your weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday. Take care.